Did you know that there are some differences in how, as parents or therapists or teachers, we teach a neurodiverse child compared to a neurotypical child? Are you reading so much information about how to teach your autistic child and you're trying to do it, but you are not getting those results and you're not able to connect with your child? Don't worry. Watch this video to learn 5 effective ways in which you can modify your teaching in order to effectively teach your child the speech and language skills or any other fine motor or academic skills. Most test materials or language tests or school systems are not built keeping every single child in mind. They are created for the majority, that is for the 70 to 80% of the population. But there are still a percentage of the population who don't really benefit from this way of teaching. So, and especially our autistic kids have difficulty with certain areas of development, especially when it comes to speech and language, social interaction skills, as well as coping skills where they have very specific interests and they need certain strict routines and schedules to function. So because of these certain difficulties, an autistic child might find it difficult to cope with the regular teaching methods and it may not work. And as parents, we might sometimes feel very frustrated that this is not working. And we don't have to take this personally, because we take every shortcoming of our child as a parent or a therapist. Many of us take it very personally, like it is our own failure or our own shortcoming. But you know that there are resources to help you, and in this video I am going to tell you 5 ways in which you can level up your speech and language teaching with your child. And there's something really exciting happening right now that I really want to share with you. And if you want to know that, just stick around till the end of the video. Also, this video is not specific to parents. It can also be used by teachers and therapists. And especially if you're a parent watching this and you want your child's therapist to know this information, do consider sharing this video to them so they know how to exactly help your child, because I'm going to be explaining a lot of science and making you understand in this video. In school, how we suddenly had holidays, like the chief minister died or there is the rain and suddenly schools are closed or colleges are closed. And on those days, let's say it's in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, you get a leave and you don't really know what to do at home. You don't know if you should enjoy the day or how should you enjoy the day. Should you be learning or studying or doing some type of productive tasks? And you're just like stuck with what to do and how to proceed and how do I use this day. So just keep this in mind. The reason I'm telling you this is because human beings like structure. We want things to be a certain way and we get used to that also. So our children, especially our autistic children, are also like a little bit more in need of structure and predictability in their environment. So here comes the structured learning time. Now you are going to make the entire learning routine very structured. Number 1, the learning environment. So have a set space in your house, either in a corner in the room or a dedicated room if you have it. Keep a space with certain things that I'm going to mention now. Keep it only dedicated to learning and activities and interesting playtime. Whenever you try to teach your child, or if you are in the classroom also, and if you are doing speech therapy for an autistic child, have a set place, a set routine of your session, so that your child knows what is going to happen and he can expect what is happening next, so that they don't feel anxious on what's going to happen. Am I in trouble, or I don't know what you're saying. Already the language you're speaking is too much for me, and now you're asking me to do new things, and it can be overwhelming for a child. So have a set learning space, and in that learning space you can decorate it or you can fill it up with certain books or toys, and very importantly, some play area on the floor, as well as a sitting time or a table time area also. A bonus point here is that you can also have play routines. That is, if you take any toy, let's say you have a number puzzle, and anytime you play this toy, you can have a routine, like you take each puzzle out of the packet and then you say something about it, and then you put it inside the board, and next time you take another puzzle and you say something about it, and then again put it inside the board. So you can have even specific routine about play, specific play activities with each toy or with each book also, which will actually make autistic children very comfortable and calm, because they can predict and they can know what is going to happen, and that gives a sense of calm to everyone. In order to properly, effectively help your child, you really need to understand more about your child. And when we think about autism, one of the core needs for a child is a sensory need. So let me help you in understanding what a sensory need is and how you can help your child for those specific sensory needs. Oh, and before I forget, make sure you wait for tip number 4 and 5, which are excellent tips like movement break chart as well as therapy schedules, which will definitely help when teaching your child. Okay, so I want you to think about it like this. Imagine your child's body, and in your child's body there is a lot of sensory organs like the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the body itself, the vestibular system inside the inner ear. All these are sensory organs, and the reason we have these organs is to understand the environment, to sense how the environment is, so that we can modify our actions according to it. Now, let's say you and I also have certain discrepancies in how much we can sense. Now, for example, let's say each sensory system is represented by a cup, and in the cup you have water or you have some liquid which denotes how much sensation you get from that particular system. And if you see here, sometimes for an autistic child, the cup may be very full, or it may be a little bit empty, or sometimes even it is a very big cup, so it cannot be filled with the same amount of sensory information as another cup. So our autistic child may have certain sensory needs. For example, if your child has a movement related sensory need, it can be seen that your child is constantly moving and jumping or spinning or rotating objects. So these can be movement related. It can mean that your child's movement cup is not completely full, and your child is trying to do all these movements in order to keep filling up the cup, because it might probably be emptying very fast. Now, the reason it is important for you to understand sensory needs is when you're teaching your child, you might be using a book or a flashcard and telling your child something. But then you see that your child keeps moving, or they keep making some sounds, they keep looking around, they are dancing, or they're rocking, or they're doing something with their hands, and you see that they're not paying attention. Now, we cannot blame our child for this because of the sensory need. So when your child has a sensory need, it is at a very physiological level. That is, it is at the basic human needs level. It is not something your child is doing just to irritate you or to waste time. That could be one reason later on, when your child has understood the environment very well and understood how to navigate people and relationships. But right now it could mean that your child has a sensory need. Now that you've understood what a sensory need is, you can see that how it is difficult for a child to be paying attention when they have these needs of movement or looking at something or hearing something. So it is difficult to pay attention. So that brings us to the next tip, which is to control the sensory environment. That is, when you're sitting down in your learning corner and you have your materials that you want to teach your child with, make sure that in your environment there are no sensory triggers that can trigger your child to have more sensory needs. Or if there is a basic unmet need and there is something in the environment that is overwhelming to your child or that is disturbing their sensory system, then your child will not be able to pay attention or to participate effectively in your task. So most often related to the basic physiology, that is, your child has not slept properly in the last few hours, or they have not eaten properly, or they're not having a bowel movement, and they're having digestive issues, or they have had less movement during the day, especially on holidays when children don't go to school, or they're not going out, they're not getting a lot of physical activity. So all that energy does not have an outlet, so there's a lot more energy in the body. Sometimes I've seen the children don't also like certain smells like perfumes or some cooking smells around the house. You see that very extreme temperatures can affect a child's activity. Now that you know what sensory needs are and what your child might have, try to control your environment in a certain way that your child's sensory needs are not triggered. Or you can also do the fourth tip. The fourth tip is to give more movement or sensory breaks. So most often we see that children sit down for an activity and they try to pay attention, but they have other sensory things happening in between. They are hearing some sound, or they're not feeling like they have enough movement, so they try to move their body. So there are many things happening. I would recommend to have very short activity times. That is, don't be sitting with your child for hours together. Just have 5 minutes of activity, 5 to 7 minutes of activity, and then immediately follow it by something called a movement break. Let's say your child is constantly moving when you're trying to teach him, or your child is constantly making a sound when you're trying to teach him. Then after the activity, give your child a movement task, like give him 50 jumps on the trampoline, or he can listen only to the audio of rhymes as you sing. And then, okay, this movement happens for a few more seconds. And then finally, you can also next do another activity. So intersperse activity times with movement breaks, so that whatever sensory need your child has, they can fulfill it during the break and pay attention for the next task.
Okay, now for the fifth tip, I want you to imagine something. Imagine your boss comes to you today morning and tells you, hey, you have a performance review today. He says that and disappears, and then you have not had a performance review in this office, and you don't know what is their format. Do they have a sheet to fill up? Will they be checking your hours and your engagement in the meetings? Or what is the format? You don't know these things. How would you feel? You may feel a little anxious and overwhelmed about how it's going to go. Let's say if you knew that they were going to check you for punctuality and for how many questions you asked in the meeting, or how soon you completed the tasks, and how much you engaged with the client. If you knew these things are what they're going to rate you on, you might feel a little calm knowing that you did well during the month. It's the same way for our kids. So this is why activity schedules will help. Now your child is probably playing, or he was in school, and then suddenly now you are asking him to do certain activities, and he may be a little puzzled on what is expected of him. So before you begin your activity, it is a good idea to first show your child what are the tasks that you're going to do. Okay, first we're going to do reading time. First we're going to read the zoo book. Okay, next after reading, we are going to do 5 minutes of music time. We can play flute and keyboard and xylophone. We will have fun with music. And third, after music time, we are going to do puzzles. We are going to do opposites puzzles after music. So these are our 3 activities for today. So in this way, if you tell your child in advance about what are the activities you're going to do in that particular period, then he will be more calm and cooperative during the tasks.
Okay, so the exciting news is that I am actually working on a parent training course for you to learn how to play as well as to teach your child. I'm hoping to be completing this course by the end of this month and giving it to you next month. So stay tuned for those updates. Finally, I want to tell you that child development, or how to teach a child, these type of skills are not taught to any parents. So don't be very hard on yourself if you did not know these skills, but just be aware of it now and try to slowly implement it.